I'd like to know from all of you, if we assume that a community is more than just a group of people, what makes a community a community? Stella, would you like to start?
Sure. I think what makes a community is a shared vision. And I didn't realise I was part of a particular community until I was 17. And I read a book about the social model of disability, and I realised that all of these women with disabilities that I've been meeting and trying very hard to have nothing to do with, because I was trying terribly hard to be cool, in my teenage years were actually kind of a part of my community, and it was about the fact that we had these shared experiences and the shared experience of difference and, you know, some shared oppressions and some shared privileges as well. And, you know, that for me, that shared experience was what to me made a community. And once I realised I was part of that community, my life got a whole lot easier. It's awesome.
Maeve.
I would echo a lot of what Stella said about shared vision and shared goal. And I think there are the really obvious markers of community when we can bind people together by saying women or gay people or people with disability. But for me, community is actually something much more subtle. It's something that you can't always tell. You can say, oh, that person's a lesbian, we're in the same community. But then if everything else is different, maybe you're not. So I think that communities move and shift based on where you are and who you're talking to and what your context is. So I've worked in the disability sector, so on some level I see myself as part of Stella's community, but then I have...
Totally in.
Yeah. But then I'm part of my mother's lesbian community, but then my lesbian community looks different. So I think it can be something subtle and shifting as well.
Teresa.
For me, I think I've thought about this quite a lot over the last little while because of taking on, I suppose, a lot of issues around ageism, both in the broader community and in our own community. And so I suppose there's a feature adding to what these two have said, which is around respect and is around valuing the differences in our experience and is around valuing the history that we have and respecting that history and all the fabulous people in our community who have been around for a very long time and done a lot of things that we are all benefiting from now.
Thank you, Teresa. McKenzie.
I don't know how to follow that up. I'm so nervous. I've had 3 glasses of water since I've been on stage.
Hold on.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add to that. I just think, shared values and respect and...
No, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be about like being gay or straight or anything else. Yeah. I just think like I come from a place in England called Brighton, and it's. I think it actually took over from Sydney as the most gay city per capita. It's a lot smaller than Sydney, but per capita there's a huge gay community. And I lived in a little place called Kemp Town in Brighton, and literally, you know. You can be whoever you want to be and nobody bats an eye. And actually the community within that community is ferociously protective. I've got a really good sort of example of that. We have a local football team, Brighton and Hove Albion, right? And there's a lot of homophobia that goes on in football, right? So we got a team coming in who start chanting like this hatred gay shit at the opposite end of the football stadium. And Brighton's answer, bearing in mind it's all big straight blokes, is, "You're too ugly to be gay. You're too ugly to be gay." And that pretty much sums it up for community for me, where I come from.
Yeah, I like that.
It's true. It's totally true. That is our retort.
So I want to get straight into the action, kind of take from what like Eva Cox asked about in the Q&A section of the first panel. What are the actions that you panelists think that the actions, the actual physical, the work that we need to do in order to support our communities. Do you want to start with that one, Heather?
Yeah, I think it definitely comes from the grassroots. It comes from getting kids when they're young. They're not born, they don't discriminate in any which way, shape or form. It's a totally learnt behaviour. And I work with diversity role models, which is going into schools and just speaking to kids at the grassroots level. For example, you know, they kind of say, it's like really gay, meaning it's really rubbish. But actually, a lot of those kids do not mean anything homophobic by that. They haven't actually put the association together. When you actually stand up in front of them and go, you're actually, you know, you would never say that's really black, or that's really Catholic, or that's really whatever. Why do you say it's really gay? Do you know what I mean? And when they actually make the association, they're quite shocked. And it's about catching it at that grassroots level. They've heard it somewhere else, it's meant something hideous, and it's about changing that language.
Stop it with the youth.
Yeah. And that's why we fought for the equal marriage bill in England. It's kind of, and we got it. It's not, you know, calling it something else, a civil partnership, essentially means it's something different. And it all starts with language, with children. And that's it for me.
It really does all start with the spoken word, because the word is Stella.
Oh, we still say it's really retarded, though, all the time.
No,
yeah.
Totally.
Like, it's the same thing, and retarded is actually one of those words that is more acceptable than it's so gay, because people argue that it's moved on. We've moved on from that meaning. Retarded no longer means people with intellectual disabilities. Totally fucking does. But we seem to have become, you know, kind of accepting of disability being used as a shortcut.
It's not acceptable at home, I know that. We don't accept it at all.
Look, and I know in many people's homes it's totally not acceptable, but, you know, because I work in comedy, every second comedian says, you know, that's retarded. And if they want to really PC it up, they use the PC language and say, oh, that's so learning disabled. And it totally, it's supposed to make it funnier because they're using the right words. It's a bit shit, really.
Yeah, total stiff shit. Completely. Maeve.
But
Absolutely.
I think, though, that in terms of action, I think it's really great when people like yourself, Heather, do these kind of campaigns. But in the end, you're having to do it because there's a lack of funding for education in the first place. Like, it's great that we have role models, but it'd be great if they were just a fun addition, and if our schools were actually doing the job of teaching kids, not just about language, but teaching kids to live in a community, teaching kids empathy, and like that discrimination isn't okay at a really early age. So for me, funding for education would fix everything else, because then when kids grew up, they'd make the right decisions and we wouldn't have to try and campaign for them to be made.
Teresa.
I think to add to that, I think all of us in our everyday lives see these kind of things and hear these kind of things every day. And I think one of the things that we all have a responsibility to do is to say that is not right. You cannot talk about people like that. We cannot treat each other like that. And I think that's one of our doing things that we have to think about every day.
Absolutely. McKenzie, what do we need to do? What do we need to do?
Breathe. I love it. We need to breathe.
McKenzie.
Oh my God, Heather, please just touch my arm.
Do you want some water?
Some water.
She's actually a comedic plant. Yeah, just to fawn on Heather Peace the whole time.
Oh, God.
Slow down, McKenzie. Don't drink too fast.
I've forgotten the question.
What do we need to do? What do we need to do?
We need to do things, yes.
Matt,
should we march? Should we go on a march?
What have I done?
What have you done? What activist
Yeah,
work
what have you done, Mackenzie? You work with Reclaim the Night.
Yeah. I was a part of a team of people, mostly university students, that organised Reclaim the Night last year. It was pretty successful, 800 people or something. I say 800 people, it's really like 500. Yeah, I don't know, more campaigning, more activism. I don't think we have enough of it. Oh my God.
Tell me, what was that night about? What was that night about? Because I was in England. Tell me.
I think I have to feed her the lines because you're just going to make her blush. I don't have that effect.
No, okay, McKenzie, I want to understand about like Gen Y. Ugh. Are you Gen Y? Yeah? Is that what your generation of?
Probably,
yeah?
Probably.
Using a lot of Facebook, Twitter.
No, not Twitter, but
not for
Facebook,
you.
Yeah.
How did you get the message of Reclaim the Night out to the people that you were reaching?
We use Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
I did a lot of flyering and putting posters up. It's really old school, but I think it helps. Except for in Newtown when they just get covered up within half an hour, or ripped down. But yeah, I think just really grassroots stuff like that.
It is that really, but it is really that basic stuff that Senator Milne was talking about, was knocking on doors. And maybe we all need to do a bit more of that, actual hands-on, not just behind a keyboard. Stella?
You can also create change in 140 characters, I have discovered, mercifully.
Oh, Twitter!
So my first little Twitter victory was when I was waiting for a friend. We were going to the movies, and I was really early, and it was on Chapel Street in Melbourne, where there was a new Topshop store. And I'd been really excited to check it out, and it used to be that same premises used to be accessible. It was a Borders bookstore, and it used to be independently accessible from two separate entrances with steps in the middle. And when I went there and it was a Topshop, they had renovated it to make it completely inaccessible. And so it was on 3 levels, and there was a little wheelchair lift to get between each level. And I asked how you accessed them, and no one knew. You needed a key, but no one could find it. And the manager wasn't around, and there was all this stuff. So I was slightly annoyed, but like it hadn't been this planned excursion. So I just, standing in line for the movie tickets, went, how disappointing that Topshop in Australia has substandard wheelchair access. And I put my phone away, and when I got it out again after the movie, there was a reply from Topshop saying you need to send us your email address. We want to sort this out. And there was it had been retweeted shitloads of times. And they emailed me a week later and said, okay, so we wanted to let you know that we have given all of our staff disability awareness training.
How long did this take?
Disability awareness training. So I wrote 140 characters.
Yeah.
Given all our staff disability awareness training, we've been in touch with the manufacturers of the lift. You no longer need a key to access it, so you can access it independently. For those people who can't access it independently, all staff are trained to assist, not just the manager. And here's a $100 gift voucher so that you can come back and experience our access.
So change can be effective.
And that kind of stuff takes no effort. I did it recently with a pub in Melbourne who was using their disabled toilet for storage. I tweeted a picture of that disabled toilet full of boxes.
I got that tweet.
Yeah.
I was at work.
Yeah, so they've fixed that now. And given that particular photo was seen 3,000 times on Twitter, I don't know that any pub in Melbourne's ever going to do that again. And it's blowing my mind how easy that is, because growing up I thought it was all about disability discrimination complaints and suing people and all these big things, and it's really not. All you have to do is say something.
Say something. Women, say something. Teresa.
But one of the things I think was really interesting about what McKenzie just said is actually that she went back to some of the very old styles of campaigning that we were talking about, and that we were using 30 years ago to campaign. And you asked her about Facebook. I think one of the things about ageing is that people make a lot of assumptions about older people, that we don't use technology and that we don't use social networking. Well, I can tell you, and I'm sure Maeve will tell you that I do. I use a lot of social networking, I use a lot of technology, and so do most of my friends. So that stereotype needs to be thrown out, along with other stereotypes about us, which are around we don't like fashion, we're not interested in how we look, we don't really have sex, that's another one. We don't really, and I can tell you...
Yeah.
I'm
okay,
totally
Maeve.
joking. We talk about sex all the time in my family. I'm kidding.
I think it's a really interesting thing that happens to you as you get older, that you start to be invisible to people. Yeah. And one of the things that I really want to do is throw that out the window. Yeah. If you look at the women we've interviewed on 55 Upper T, you will see that they challenge all the kinds of ageist stereotypes that we have in our community. And I am determined to continue doing that.
Awesome. I want to ask the two of you, you're both very, very busy and very, very active. How would you say that your approaches are the same, and how do they differ in your approaches, and also your use of media in order to affect change?
That's an interesting question. I think probably our approaches are quite similar. I mean, I work in communications when I'm not prancing about in a tutu doing cabaret. And
Ladies thinks it better?
Sorry?
Was that Ladies thinks it better?
It's all right. She already did the product placement. No, but so I work in communications and Teresa works in the public sector. So we both have quite practical and problem-solving approaches to everything that we do. And so probably we both use social networking, we both use word of mouth. I'm actually working with Teresa on her project for the event, so I don't know, it's probably more interesting if I was like, oh, we're generationally so different, but we're quite similar in lots of ways.
And would you agree with that, Teresa?
Yes.
So you use media, you use things very, very similarly.
Yeah, we often run things past one another.
Yeah.
And do you very often disagree?
Sometimes. We disagree about different things. I mean, in my family, we talk very frankly with each other about pretty much everything. So there will be always moments where we disagree with each other, all five of us. But because we're so open and honest all the time, it can get fiery and then calm down. And we have a lot of core values that I would say are the same across the board.
And one thing about having had 3 children in a lesbian relationship, I think, is that one of the wonderful things that happens as all of you get older together is that you have automatic kind of cross-generational relationships and influence one another. And Maeve and I have worked very hard, as I have with my other children, my other daughter is here, to actually change our relationship into an adult relationship where we all have a big social conscience.
Tell us a little bit about the Edna Ryan Grand Stirrer Award, Teresa, because I'm not across that.
Actually, probably Eva could answer that question better. Edna Ryan was a big politician in New South Wales for many, many years. When she died, her family established an award, and every year it's given to a number of women for a number of things. There are a few other women in this room who've got an Edna Ryan Award for recognition, basically, for making a difference to women.
So, making a difference. Go ahead, Maeve.
Teresa's not going to blow her own trumpet, so I'm going to do it. What I really like, the Edna Ryan Award in the past has often been given to women who are more well-known than necessarily Teresa has been. And what was nice about this year is that they gave it to someone that was working on a community level. And the theme is generation and community. And a lot of what Teresa does and a lot of what I do is sort of small-scale activism and small-scale charities. And Teresa's a soccer coach for women and can influence their confidence playing sport. And those kind of little things that you can do in your everyday life by encouraging people to be feminists and encouraging people to be confident can also have an impact.
Heather, do you think it's that it's a responsibility of someone in the public eye to take a stand and use their fame as a platform?
No, not at all.
To incite change?
No, that's a personal preference. I don't think it's fair for anyone. There was a big hounding in the UK years and years ago, trying to out people. It was just like, what is that about? And I wasn't a victim of that, but I was called into London Weekend Television, which is ITV, which is huge, where they were going to out me at the age of 24, and I was so frightened for no reason. It was just going to be all over the tabloids, and I was told by the producers, you know, either you talk to the paper and give them an exclusive and they'll go with your version of events, or if you don't talk to them, they'll make it up and make it quite sleazy. And the problem was that my grandparents were still alive, who were Lithuanian Catholics, and they didn't know. And I had a Catholic upbringing. My parents, it doesn't matter now, everybody in my family knows, but, you know, on the deathbed of my grandmother, I tried to tell her that I was gay. I sort of said, you know, I don't think it matters as long as you love that person. And she still sort of turned around and said, but that's a sin, Heather. You know, and that's at that moment where you go, that could have absolutely devastated our family. And I don't think anyone within our community has a right to say, if you're gay, you should talk about it, because it has to be about where you are in your head, your heart, your politics.
Now, each one of you, I'd like to, whatever community you in Yorkshire, what is the, say, 2 things that you would like to see change in the next year? If you could take 2 things and like utopian vision, two things that you had in your heart, you just would want those things to change because those things would make a difference to your community. You want to hold on that
Can
one?
I only have 2?
2.
Stella?
Just 2.
I'd like us to not to stop teaching shame to children with disabilities. I think that would be an excellent start, because I think that the point that I have come to in my life, and it took me a while to come to, was not because my parents my parents taught me that I had the same value as everybody else, but inherently society teaches us that disabled people are worth less than non-disabled people. And young people internalise that. And, it took me until my late teens to kind of go, what? That's a bit fucked. I don't actually have to believe that just because other people are trying to teach me that. And, I see it all the time. I see exclusion of disabled people in all walks of life. And, so that would be my first one. The second one would be put disabled people on television and in popular culture, because this is what the world looks like. And I kind of hate that phrase, you can't be what you can't see. But it's sort of true as well. I mean, if young people don't have those kind of role models, like I want one of the mainstream characters on Neighbours to be a disabled person, and for their disability not to be central to the storyline, just for them to be like a mum or part of the community. Funnily enough,
because without visibility, no one can talk about what's going on.
No, and the problem is, I just wrote a chapter for a book about the exclusion of disabled women from mainstream feminism, and I did all this kind of investigation, and what it really came down to is that disabled women are so invisible in society that no one even knows what access looks like. No one knows how to include us. No one even thinks to include us because we're so marginalised and so invisible that unless we're there, literally tapping at the window to get in, people just don't even consider it.
I was shocked to, because I have to do my, research so I can sit up here and talk with everybody. And, I was really shocked to find out that in Australia, 45% of people with disability live in or near poverty.
Yeah.
And that's more than double of the OECD, which is 22%. And we rank 21st out of 29 in employment participation.
Yep.
for people with disability, and that's just shameful. Like 21st out of 29, and this is Australia.
And we actually rank 29 out of 29 in terms of quality of life for people with disabilities in the OECD nations.
You know?
I'm trying.
Fix it, Stella, fix it.
Fix it, damn it, yeah. Okay, I'm completely lost. Teresa.
I'd like to pick up on the poverty issue that you just said. I actually think that's the biggest issue that needs facing for women, both in Australia and everywhere else in the world, and older women as well as women with disabilities. Older women in Australia retire with 1/3 of the superannuation income that older men retire with. That is shocking. That is really shocking, and we are condemning women to a life of poverty in old age, and we are condemning lesbians in our community to a life of poverty. If there were one thing I could change, that's what it would be.
And I mean, just to kind of go further on that, because I'm trying to put action into these things, how do we, what would be like the first step?
Well, we know that women earn over our lifetime. I think it was Tara Moss here last time said that we pay a $1 million gender tax over our lifetime with the amount we earn. We earn 16% less annually than men. We have to fix that, because then that'll flow on to our income in old age.
McKenzie, what would you like to change in this next year? What if you could have a choice of something?
I want to put a bit of a trigger warning out because you said something about it was in Utopia or something.
Yep.
And in my head, I would really like it. I know it's not going to happen in a year. I'd really like to end rape. I think it's just a default setting now for me. When I meet another woman, it's just assumed that they have been a victim of rape or sexual assault or physical assault. And I just think if in Utopia, in this airy-fairy world, it would be really nice to end that.
Absolutely. Heather? Back to you.
I think I was thinking that word utopia as well, and I just wish people were born with empathy. That's it. If everyone could actually, I think there's so few people that can actually step outside of their own life and step into someone's shoes and think what it would actually feel like to be that other person. So I just wish everyone was born empathetic, and they couldn't, for whatever reason, get rid of it.
Do I get to change things?
Absolutely.
I want to change some things. I'm no scientist, so I don't have how we can do this, but I'd really like it if climate change were actually addressed in this country in a proper way, and we stopped having a dependency on the mining industry. That would be great. And then we'd actually have a world to do all these other good things in. And sort of going back to what I said earlier, funded education, but also education that's really honest and frank. I think we lie to children, and I'm not just talking about Santa Claus. We lie to them about sex. We tell them that they can't know about it, and it's this secret thing that happens, and that the stork brought them. And I think it brings a shame about sexuality. We lie to kids about disability and race, and give them these worlds where all these differences are super important. And if we actually had really frank and honest discussion with children about discrimination, about the world around them, about what sex and sexuality were, and not just about safe sex, but about positive sex, about sex that made them happy and made them feel good once they were adults, and what consent means. If we incorporated this into English and maths and science that fixed climate change, I think we'd have a great place to live. That would be good, all of that.
I'd like to change gears a little bit and get everybody's opinion on communities and integration and segregation. Sometimes in the gay community, we can say we just want to be with, tonight, we're with the girls. We've got a few guys sprinkled around. And sometimes we integrate and sometimes we segregate. Which is more powerful in the broader community as far as getting our ideas across? I'd like to grab a
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Absolutely, it's just not there yet, is it? I think we definitely segregate a lot between gays and lesbians in London. but not so much in Brighton. Just moved to Brighton. We don't even segregate between straights and gays. You know, you can go to your local pub quiz and meet the woman of your dreams. But I think anything, the more the merrier. You know, the bigger the group, the stronger the shout.
But is it important to remember a cultural identity that has part of it, which is just being with those that are like you? Is that because we've had this situation at Women Say Something, where we've had women say that they were not happy hearing a viewpoint from a straight woman. So where do we integrate? Where do we segregate? Stella, jump on.
I don't know about in gay and lesbian circles, but certainly in disability, there's been this push for inclusion and integration, and the goal is to make us all just the same as non-disabled people. And actually, I don't really think that's not my goal. My goal is that we can look at disability culture and celebrate that for what it is as well, as be able to participate in everyday kind of society. So, the goal is kind of, integration, but it means that we also have the right at some points to embrace the segregation and to be who we are with our own people, and we get very, very few opportunities to celebrate disability, and I think that there's a real place for that.
So do you think it's something where you have the integration, but it's important, important to have that space as a minority group to be able to be in that space?
Yeah, and we need to stop trying to co-opt that space. I think that there's a lot of, when people hear about celebrating disability, they get all, oh yeah, the Don't Diss My Ability campaign. That kind of thing. That's about celebration of ability, right? And I'm very vocal about the fact that we should be able to celebrate our disability identity. We shouldn't have to be all, spelling disability with a fucking capital A in the middle of it. Like, we don't need. And someone pulled me up on Twitter the other day about the fact that I used the term ableism to describe a society that is inherently ableist. It's set up for non-disabled people, and it disadvantages disabled people. And they said that even puts the focus on ability as opposed to disability, which is they're not opposite concepts. The fact that you can split that word down the middle, I think, has done us a great kind of disservice. And the ableism thing is something I'm going to have to think a little bit more about before I come to any kind of conclusion. But I think that when we say we are disabled people and we are proud to be who we are, non-disabled people need to stop tut-tutting and just thinking of it as being a way that we make ourselves feel better. It's really not. It's how we actually feel.
Maeve.
I think it depends entirely on the context. I want a world where you can meet the woman at your dreams in a pub quiz, and that's great. But like you say, I want to be able to celebrate difference, and I don't want to hang out with everybody. I think that for formal events, for something like this, diversity is really, really important. Here at White Women Say Something, which was...
Bitch, you stole my line.
I stole your joke, man. You hadn't said it. You hadn't said it. No, I'm kidding. I know that I'm joking on some level, but also I'm saying that diversity is really, really important, and we need to consistently, in formal settings, focus on inclusion and in diversity and not segregation. In social settings, if you want to hang out with like-minded individuals and you don't want to face discrimination, or you don't just want to talk to someone that you disagree with about everything, I think it's okay to have a bit of segregation. So it depends on the setting.
Yeah, it depends how strong the segregation is as well. In the sense of, I think my dad would have quite enjoyed tonight. That sort of thing. There's boys who are more feminist than I'll ever be. I played Manchester Pride Night to fight. The first year I played the women's stage, I had 3 male, very, very good friends who were denied access to come and watch me play because it was a women's stage. And I don't agree with that at all, and it makes me really angry. I don't think that we shouldn't have things like this. But I definitely think that there comes a point with segregation where, you know, one of my best mates isn't allowed to come in and support me because he's male is crazy.
Teresa.
The thing I'm interested in, I suppose, now is the sort of intergenerational connection. And I'm really heartened, actually, by what's been going on in our community around that in the last little while. I'm really, really pleased that many, many younger women actually want to hear the stories of older women in our community and want to hear that range of older women's stories, both lesbian, bisexual, transgender women. The FEM conference was on in Sydney last week. Stella actually contacted myself and Gail, I think, quite deliberately, because she said she was worried that there weren't going to really be the voice of older women at that conference. Now, I was really, really pleased with that. I think that's a really good sign that we're going in the right direction.
McKenzie, take it easy on the water.
I will happily escort myself from the stage if I have to. It's just a warning. For some reason, I want to say something about how we just raised $10,000, but at this event, as amazing as it is, our Auslan interpreters here are not paid, and they bought their own tickets to come in. Well, one of them. So that's controversial, obviously. But when we don't have Auslan interpreters, you're denying access to hundreds and thousands or whatever of deaf people, 15,000 signing deaf people in Australia. And there is a large, very large queer deaf community. And I just think at an event like this, you risk denying access to them if we don't have them. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Women Say Something. I'm just concerned that if you're not going to pay your Auslan interpreters, that you're not really showing the right amount of respect for... Well, you're not really paying enough attention to accessibility.
I mean, it's only really... There's not been... 10 years ago, when I was first DJing in Sydney, we always had Auslan interpreters at all the parties, I believe.
They're expensive.
They are expensive, and well, they should be. And then just basically for ages, you just didn't see interpreters. And it's only really
You don't want to see interpreters because they're in the way.
Yeah. Well, they get in the way of the show,
yeah,
is that right?
With the Queensland floods, there was just this uproar because there was an Auslan interpreter, and too many people were saying, oh, it was just distracting. And it was like, you never walk past an accessible bathroom and go, oh, it's distracting. That ramp, it's so distracting, I just can't handle it. We never say that.
Yeah, it's true. You found your voice. Well done. Great. Wow. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Have I hit everybody? I just got completely captivated by that conversation.
Should I leave?
You should totally not leave.
That was excellent. Maeve and I actually were having that conversation before, that you know, that access is not necessarily a priority for people, and I really don't mean to this great event. It is excellent, but and it's just a prime example of the invisibility I was talking about before. Steph actually tried to book me for the November Women Say Something, but they couldn't. The access was just not going to be possible. And there were conversations about whether or not I was comfortable with speaking from the side of the stage and things that made me very uncomfortable. But it's a great event, and I wanted to support it. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that.
It's not because you're ungrateful. I'm grateful to be here, but it's just constructive criticism.
Look, you know, McKenzie, it's great criticism. I think it's really important criticism. You know, I think if those words aren't spoken, then no one, like you're saying, it becomes an invisible issue, and invisible issues suck.
But working in the arts, you come across this with venues all the time, and it's great that we're in a forum where McKenzie can say that, and you go, cool, I'll take the feedback, like that's community. But in my cabaret, we used to have an amazing singer who uses a wheelchair. She's a really good singer. And we would call venues before booking, and we would say, is your venue accessible? And they'd be like, yep. And we go, is the stage accessible? And they'd be like, say what?
Yeah.
And you're like, the idea
We're
that I
allowed
would want...
in the audience, but not on the
the idea
stages.
that I would want a performer on the stage, they had never considered. So I think that it's so widespread that people don't think of these things that, I mean, it's unsurprising.
Yeah, I think it is. McKenzie, while I've got you talking, I was talking to some girls, young girls.
Lesbians?
Lesbians, yes, in Newtown.
I've heard of them.
Excuse me?
I've heard of them.
You've heard of them, yeah. You can see them everywhere over there. And they were saying that they didn't actually find Mardi Gras they didn't really know anything about Mardi Gras. They were very young, probably early 20s. And they just really didn't know anything that was going on about Mardi Gras. It just wasn't on their radar at all. Do you find that in your generation or your friends or age group?
I thought you said
Mardi
fans
Gras,
then. I was like, I don't have fans. Sorry.
The fans. Your fans. Your friends.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people think of Mardi Gras as... The parade is predominantly men in Speedos, or not, barely wearing any clothes. And I can understand why a lot of young women would feel excluded from that. I know that there is something very seen called Girl Thing, and they run this after party for Mardi Gras. It's popular. It sells out in like seconds, So there are some events around for young women. But Mardi Gras, I've always just thought of it as a big parade of men in drag or just very extravagant. I don't know. I don't think it represents women enough, and that's why I'm so excited about the Women Say Something float, because it's hopefully going to be the biggest. And I just think we need more of that. I don't know.
Teresa, what do you think about the relevance for women that are older on Mardi Gras?
Well, I'm so pleased that we celebrated the 78ers that are in the room tonight. The women have had a big presence in Mardi Gras over the years, and we can think of many, many women who've been involved and done masses of work. I mean, within our own extended family, Jane Marsden and Joy Marshall did the parade and so on for many, many years. I do think it's part of the whole issue that we've got, though, it's interesting that McKenzie's view is that, because I think one of the things we have to think about is what do we do that actually appeals to all the generations that are part of our community now. And some of the things, I look through the Mardi Gras program and I think there aren't many things there that are particularly friendly to the older members of our community, which is one of the things I was doing. But I'm also appreciating what's being said about the much younger part of our community as well. And I think, again, back to money, some of that may be that some of the events are very, very expensive. Young women and older women can't afford a lot of the events that are on for Mardi Gras. So I do think we need to think about events that are more inclusive for all of us.
How do you think that transfers over to the UK, Heather? As far as the big festivals, the big gay festivals in the UK. You live in Utopia, the best place in the world, Brighton. But
Brighton's free.
It's free?
Yeah, totally free.
Free?
And you can smuggle beer in your bags.
You what?
They're still not checking your bags, so you can put some tinnies in your bags as well.
Really?
Yeah. If you're really clever. If you're clever. So that makes it almost free. Manchester Pride is totally mixed, and it's £15 for the entire weekend. But they don't have the huge, brilliant events, and their parade is nowhere near what Sydney. The thing is, if you're gonna, you just got to take the knock if the money's not coming in. I know Manchester have struggled, and they've based their pride on Sydney because it's the only one that is actually a festival. It's not just some big weekend piss up. you know, it's a 2-week, you know, art galleries and theatre. But it all needs funding. It does all need funding. So it's just about choosing some maybe smaller events that don't require a lot of money, that are about just people coming together. You know, I've got a whole community of women who come and see me. We started a community called the HP community. All the women are from all over the world. They talk to each other on their own private Twitter site and all this, and we kept it to kind of 200 to make sure that they were all really decent people. That in itself, now they have their own meeting place and all of that. I think it's about putting on enough events across the spectrum of affordability and what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Thank you. Do we have time for Q&A, guys? Or do we have to wind up? Unfortunately, guys, we've run over time. I'm going to keep going.
Can I just put in a plug, actually?
Excuse me?
The tickets for 55 Upper Tees launch next Thursday.
Yeah, bring it on.
Are only $10 or $15. So
See?
If you want,
And they will have Auslan interpreters there.
if you want an awesome small community event that is part of the festival, Maxine Cowder Band, one of the best queer bands in Sydney, are playing on Saturday night at the Factory, and you should come on down. That's a small festival event. It's not. I'm not in it, so I can plug it, right?
Yeah, plug it. Please thank your panelists, Stella Young, Maeve Marsden, Teresa, McKenzie, and Heather. Now I need to do some thank yous. I'd like to thank the entire Women Say Something crew, Janine, Vanessa, Bell, Jen, and all our Women Say Something volunteers. Big thanks to the team at Mardi Gras, Kat Willis, Les McDonald, G.I. Joe, Becky Cole, Libby O'Donovan, Laura Hall for our beautiful centerpieces. They're amazing. Michael Rolick, the City of Sydney. Again, our wonderful panelists and performers, and especially you for making it out here tonight and enjoying Women Say Something. I'd like to now introduce Heather Peace.
I'm going to sing a little song from an album called Fairy Tales that I did write with my very fair hands. Yeah, this is a song called Sabotage. It's all about self-sabotage. It's very cheery. I only write when I'm miserable. I'm a danger, my middle name's Disaster. I don't know what to do with myself. Oh. You say you want to know me, well, you should know all of me. My only enemy is me. Baby, 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 won't you? Maybe, maybe, maybe. Save me, save me, save me from myself. Well, you're my lifeline from this my me time. No pressure, but I'm torn. Whoa, whoa. Well, sabotage is my favorite pastime. Well, don't look at me so forlorn. Baby, 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 won't you? Maybe, maybe, maybe. Save me, save me, save me from myself. And I'm not, no. Baby, 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 won't you? Maybe, maybe,
Thank you very much. Please thank Heather Pace.